According to Pyongyang, Kim Jong-un was born January 8, 1984, heir to a pure revolutionary bloodline. But South Korean intelligence records suggest a different year. His mother's birth certificate points to a different country entirely, and population genetics now reveal his family's ancestry is far more complex than state propaganda ever allowed. So what can actually be verified about a bloodline a nuclear-armed regime has spent decades rewriting? North Korea's official biography presents Kim Jong-un as the flawless product of revolutionary heritage. According to the Korean Central News Agency, he was born on January 8, 1984, in Pyongyang, the capital, to Kim Jong-il and Ko Young-hui. This date appears in state calendars, school textbooks, and every major commemorative publication since his rise to power. The official story is seamless. Kim Jong-un, third in the line, inherits what state media calls the Paektu bloodline, a term that links his ancestry directly to Mount Paektu, the legendary birthplace of the Korean nation and a symbol of purity and resistance. The regime's narrative leaves no room for Yoon ambiguity. Kim's birth is cast as a moment of historic inevitability, fulfilling the destiny set by his grandfather Kim Il-sung and father Kim Jong-il. State-produced documentaries and murals show a direct, unbroken line stretching from the anti-Japanese guerrilla struggle through the founding of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, culminating in Kim Jong-un's leadership. The slogan, Paektu Bloodline, is repeated in speeches and banners, reinforcing the idea that the Kim family's right to rule is not just political, but biological, a sacred inheritance that sets them apart from ordinary citizens. Official biographies omit any reference to foreign ties, disputed dates, or the broader ethnic history of the region. The story is designed to be airtight. In this version, Kim Jong-un's origin is both revolutionary and inevitable, his right to power encoded in his very DNA. The state's message is clear. There is no complexity, no contradiction, only the perfect continuity of a single, unbroken bloodline. South Korean intelligence analysts began questioning the official timeline as early as 2012. A close review of school records from the elite Mongyeongdae Revolutionary School indicated that a student matching Kim Jong-un's profile entered in 1990, corresponding to a birth year of 1982, not 1984. The National Intelligence Service later cross-checked these findings with construction data. High-resolution satellite imagery revealed that the Kim family's private residence in Ryanggang province was still under construction in 1999. The scale and design of the building, large enough to house a teenager and his security detail, fit a timeline for a child born in 1982 or 1983 approaching adulthood by the turn of the millennium. U.S. diplomatic cables, declassified in recent years, added another layer to the puzzle. Embassy staff in Seoul flagged inconsistencies between North Korea's public statements and evidence gathered from international school archives. Records from a Swiss public school show a K. Jong-un enrolled in 1999, with an age that would place his birth in the early 1980s. Photographs from a 2001 graduation ceremony were compared to known age markers by State Department analysts, who concluded that Kim appeared older than the regime's official account allowed. Academic studies have tried to reconcile these conflicting data points. A 2021 paper in Korea Journal synthesized leaked school registries, satellite imagery, and defector testimony, concluding that the most likely birth year is 1982, with 1984 included only to accommodate the official narrative. Each new piece of evidence, whether a construction permit, a satellite photo, or a leaked enrollment list, adds to a growing body of contradictions that challenge the regime's carefully crafted timeline. The question of Kim Jong-un's true origins remains unresolved, with every new record deepening the uncertainty. Kim Jong-suk, Kim Jong-un's grandmother, was born in North Hamgyong province near the Tumen River, a region shaped by centuries of migration and shifting borders. Her birthplace sits at the crossroads of Korea, China, and Russia, a landscape where peoples and cultures have mingled far beyond the boundaries drawn by modern propaganda. In the early 20th century, families like the Kims moved through a territory marked by Manchurian, Korean, and even Siberian influences. Local oral histories recall marriages between Korean villagers and Jurchen clans, traces of which can be found in regional archives. North Hamgyong's population has long reflected this blend. Genetic surveys show a higher frequency of Tungusic and East Siberian markers than in the south, alongside the dominant Korean Y chromosome lineage. The Kim's roots here do not point to an isolated, mythic ancestry, but to a family line embedded in the broader population shifts that shaped Northern Korea. Kim Jong-suk's story is inseparable from this frontier, her lineage both a product of local tradition and the wider currents that have defined the region's identity. Ko Young-hui's name is almost never spoken in North Korean media. Official biographies describe her only as the Mother of Korea, omitting any hint of her origins outside the country's borders. Yet multiple intelligence dossiers and defector accounts point to a different story. Ko was born in Osaka, Japan, in 1953 into a family of Zainichi Koreans, descendants of those brought to Japan during the colonial era. Japanese municipal records from the period are incomplete, and no authenticated birth certificate has surfaced. But South Korean intelligence reports from the 2010 decade consistently list Osaka as her birthplace, citing defector testimony and third-party sources. Within North Korea, this detail has been systematically erased. State publications and educational materials never mention Japan in connection with Ko. This omission is not accidental. The regime's narrative depends on the image of an unbroken, indigenous revolutionary bloodline, unsullied by foreign ties. A Japanese birthplace would complicate the myth of purity that underpins the Kim family's claim to power, especially given Japan's fraught history on the peninsula. The silence around Ko's early life signals a deliberate effort to conceal the Zainichi connection. While her ancestry reflects broader patterns of migration and forced relocation that shaped modern Korea, the official story remains carefully sanitized. This is the first visible crack in the regime's portrait of hereditary legitimacy, a reminder that even the most sacred family myths are subject to revision, omission, and the quiet rewriting of history. Recent advances in population genetics have added a new dimension to the debate over the Kim family's origins. In 2019, a comprehensive survey of over 1,200 Koreans from across the peninsula revealed that the northern provinces, where the Kim dynasty traces its roots, carry a distinctive mix of genetic markers. Y chromosome analysis found that haplogroup OM117 accounts for about 70% of male lineages in the north, while CM217, a marker associated with Tungusic and Manchurian ancestry, appears in 10 to 15%. These figures stand in contrast to the south, where CM217 is nearly absent. Mitochondrial DNA studies show a similar pattern. The D4B2 lineage, common in the Russian Far East, is found in nearly half of northern maternal lines. Dr. Lee, a population geneticist at Seoul National University, has modeled these patterns using both modern and ancient DNA. His team's analysis of Bronze Age remains from the Mumun culture suggests that up to 90% of the genetic makeup in today's northern Koreans can be traced back more than 3,000 years. The data indicate a deep continuity, but also hint at minor waves of admixture from neighboring regions. For the Kim family, these findings mean that their claimed ancestral ties to northern Korea are statistically likely, yet far from exclusive. The genetic landscape is shared by millions, not reserved for a single bloodline. In 2012, a defector with ties to North Korea's leadership described an unusual order from the highest ranks. Kim Jong-un was to undergo facial surgery to more closely resemble his grandfather, Kim Il-sung. The operation, reportedly carried out in a Pyongyang clinic, targeted the jawline and cheekbones, features that had defined the founder's iconic profile. According to the defector's account, the procedure was not a matter of personal vanity, but a calculated act of statecraft. Party officials framed the surgery as a way to reinforce the image of hereditary legitimacy, making Kim's appearance echo the revolutionary patriarch seen in murals and propaganda films. State media soon circulated new photographs, with subtle changes in facial structure that drew comparisons to Kim Il-sung's earliest portraits. The regime's myth-making extended beyond slogans and textbooks into the realm of physical transformation, blurring the lines between biology, propaganda, and the demands of dynastic rule. In the summer of 1948, the fate of North Korea's first government was not decided in Pyongyang, but in Moscow. Soviet strategy papers, declassified decades later, detail how Stalin's advisors handpicked Kim Il-sung as the leader of the new state. The decision followed months of deliberation among Soviet military officials and political operatives who weighed various guerrilla commanders for their loyalty and reliability. Telegrams from the Soviet civil administration in Korea, preserved in Russian archives, record the final directive. Kim Il-sung would be installed as chairman, with Soviet officers overseeing the transfer of power. The official ceremony in Pyongyang was carefully orchestrated, with Soviet troops present and a script approved by Moscow. The new regime's claim to indigenous revolutionary legitimacy was, from the outset, engineered by foreign hands. The dynasty's foundation rests as much on external calculation as on any bloodline or mythic ancestry. Today, North Korea's myth of a pure revolutionary bloodline is less a fact than a carefully curated story. As scientific inquiry and leaked archives continue to challenge official claims, the real history remains contested. In such opaque regimes, truth itself becomes a battlefield. What do you think?